Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to another instalment of our monthly CarpFix Live. The main purpose of this is to answer you, the members' questions, but whilst those questions come in, so get them in as soon as you can, all things carp fishing, anything rigs, baits, location, venues, about our films, anything that you like. But whilst those questions are coming in, I'm going to have a little waffle about what I've been up to and some of the films me and Scott will discuss what's been out recently. It's been a little while since we've done a live. Now, just recently, this week, I went out to Priory Park, and if you've been a long-term member of CarpFix or you've been right back through the catalogue, you may remember that we went there back in 2020 when we very, very first started. A tiny park lake, crystal clear water, big island through the middle, super shallow, and somewhere that sort of reminds me of being a kid. You know, I used to do a lot of park lake fishing when I was younger, and there's something about those park lakes in the winter that sort of normally day fish them, you know, day only fish them, but there's something about like being able to walk round no matter what the weather, how cold it is, and it has been really cold until now, and find fish, see fish, and see them react to your rigs and baits and whatnot. The session was a little bit tougher this time. Didn't catch as many as we did on that first ever film that we went there. But yeah, sort of grinded, tried lots of different spots, had fish over the baits, lost one pretty quickly. And then finally on the last night, when you're thinking we've wasted our time, managed to catch one of the old originals, a real nice one, 20 pounder. So yeah, that was, I felt lucky at the end. It was I took sort of 3/4 of the way through the session. It really did feel like the blank was looming. I'd been on fish the whole time and they were swimming over the rigs and ignoring them, and I didn't have sort of alternative baits to change anything. I didn't really have any sort of special moves that I could pull out to pull it out the bag. But yeah, that film will be out. When will that be out?
So Ash will edit that one next week, so it'll probably be a
Friday?
week. No, it'll be
A week
yeah,
Friday.
A week Friday. Or it depends. Yeah, about a week Friday probably.
Because this Friday coming, there's a Rob Burgess film where over at Norton Disney on Billy's Lake, I'm not sure how many fish are in the film, but I know whilst Rob was on the lake, he caught 17 fish from Billy's, and Billy's got a good bit of form for the cold weather action. I've been there myself in March and caught a few. It's quite open and windswept, which means it's sort of if you get decent temperatures on Billy's and you can like good wind on it, then the temperature of the water rises quite quickly. And I think as well, if you can spot accurately like 27, 28 wraps, there's obviously a lot of beginner carp anglers that go to Billy's Lake through the summer, and actually, you know, fish sort of push out to that central zone in the middle. I think, I don't know, I haven't seen the footage yet of what Rob done, but I'm pretty sure he was fishing out towards the middle and he like catching quite a few fish. So that's coming next Friday. The week before was your
Graville,
your 56 pounder.
It was,
have a little chat about that.
Yeah, well, it was it was quite a while ago now. But
was it September when you caught it or October?
No, October. So it was back in. But the thing is, I went there I probably done a good 4 or 5 sessions where I didn't really catch a lot.
Right.
And it mainly it was probably because you're just not in the right place.
Yeah.
But on that particular session, the fish were I mean they show like, you know, in lots of different areas. But when I turned up on that session, they were showing towards the shallower end. And it was when we had...
When you say shallow end, where do you mean? Like,
so up in like the...
Towards the motorway bank?
Yeah, towards that top.
Yeah,
the top bay area. Where it
25 and that, is that what's up
yeah,
there?
Yeah, but they were they were showing like on the back of these big weed beds.
Yeah.
And we were forecast a load of like real strong winds. And then I went on the end of it. And I was like, it's nice now, and it was like real windy. But then I thought, if this it was meant to be 50 mile an hour gusts.
Yeah.
And on there, when I packed up, if you've watched the film, when I packed up, it was literally like being on the coast. It was savage.
Yeah.
And it was when I finished, I was like, I wouldn't want to even continue anyway.
Yeah.
Like
You're
even though I was
windswept.
catching fish,
Yeah.
I was like, there's no point in even.
But when you caught the big one, it was like that.
It was it was but regular recast, little top up of a bait now and again.
Yeah. Spomming.
Spomming, but I could so because of the wind, I could only spom up until the last evening. So after I was spomming through the night as well, but on that last evening through the night and in the morning, I couldn't do any spomming because you would literally cast when you were looking at the trees. You would cast it. Like I was calculating right. You know when you calculate right, if I aim here, it'll land there, and I just kept going left and left and left.
Yeah,
and I was
swaz on it.
Honestly, I was casting like miles up, and I was like, this is not even going where it's meant to be going.
Yeah.
So I just gave up, and with that, by that point, I already had a few fish. Anyway, turned up. The fish were shown in that shallower end, so I was like, I've been in this situation before in October in that particular swim. Just try and recreate exactly what I did then. So that's what I did. Fished basically the same spot. You can in that swim you can fish in 20 foot or 35 foot if you want to, and I did both, and I caught off both. But that's it's one of those swims that I think not a lot of people go in, but I think it's one of those swims that's got a lot going for it because it's got the different levels. It's caught 4 in total, including that one, which was I didn't realise it was. I knew it was like I said it was a 50 pounder. I knew it was a 50 pounder. When it went in the net, I didn't really realise like what fish it was. And when Paul was like, "That's a real good one, like one of the real good ones," I was like, "Yeah." And it still didn't really sink in, to be honest,
until you get it.
And have a look at the pictures. You're like, "Shit, this is like a proper one." Yeah,
so like probably one of the best of the best.
Like if I would rather catch that, even at low 50s. I mean, you'd be happy.
60s.
Yeah. Because it's a nice fish. But I just basically copied what I'd done previously in the same swim, same baiting strategy, same baits. Again, it was on I'm pretty sure it was on a stiff hinge.
Yeah.
All the same stuff as before, just didn't change anything.
Oh.
But it was a good session. Not low.
How big were the other fish you caught?
2 40s and a 30.
That's nice.
Yeah. They were all. It was, or it might have been 2 30s and a 40. I think it was 2 40s and a 30.
Yeah.
But that I didn't really, I wasn't too fussed about that.
I wasn't too fussed about the 240s or the 56.
If I didn't get to 56, I'd be hyping up the 40 pounder or something.
Yeah.
But it was. I managed to film literally the bite and everything. I stupidly, right? I did it on the other fish as well because I got the new, new to me, but the fox, like the posh ones. I don't know what they're called. Yeah, I've got those, and I'm not used to flicking the switch up.
What do you mean?
Flicking the switch down to turn them on.
Right. Okay.
So I twice didn't turn them back on when the rods were there.
So when the clutch going.
Yeah. I was sat there and I was just. Fortunately, I heard it pretry quick.
Yeah.
But I just sat there and I could just hear it whizzing away, and I was like,
it takes a little while. It's like that sounds like a clutch. I'm away.
Yeah. But I did it on the one before. But now I know to make sure they're set.
Yeah.
But
do you know that you got 2 levels with the switch, as in like 1 click down is the LED doesn't stay on in the day. 2 clicks down, you have your night light.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. There you go. Learn something new every day.
All I do is turn them on. Yeah, well, I don't turn them on.
If you go all the way to the bottom, you got the night light on. If you go to the middle, you don't.
Yeah. No, so it was good. I think it's been fishing fairly well recently. No, I don't think any 60s have been out recently, but there's been quite a few people fishing there and stuff. So it was good. It was like this. To catch that, it's just like it was the next it was the next goal, really, because
Yeah.
I'd caught 40, caught 50, that 52 when you were there.
Yeah.
So it was like I'm just working my way up slowly.
The road to the 60 continues.
Well, it's just not. Yeah, very privileged to fish there, but it's very it's a crazy place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else we got to talk about?
The other thing we did was we went to
Norton with Stokesy.
Yes. What was the lake called? The round one.
No, Holden's didn't you go on?
Is
the
it
deep
the
one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the name.
Holden's,
so
which
many.
is it's next to Turner's and I think it's Turner's. I think.
Yeah. So that's a really good film. If you go and fish Norton quite a bit or any deep lakes, it's definitely worth going to. So Stokesy had some previous knowledge on that lake in particular at this time. Well, back in November at that time of year. We're still November now, isn't it?
Yeah. December tomorrow.
Yeah, but in the colder months, like he ended up catching out of the deepest part of the lake. So it was like 30, 35 foot, which he clearly wasn't, afraid of fishing in that depth because he did.
Yeah.
But he was a little bit dubious about it at the start because he was like they're showing out there. You could see them out there, but it's like, are they actually feeding? And until he put the bait out there, it was like, shit, they are. And nobody was fishing in that.
I think there's like, when you fish the really deep lakes, what happens is most of the year, when you fish really deep lakes, they're only getting caught on the shelves and the shallow zones, like most of the year.
Yeah.
And then you'll notice once you get to August, it's like progressively getting deeper as the year goes on. Like they will start to get caught in the parts of the lake that they haven't visited all year. And by the time you get to November, December, or even like October time, you could be catching them in the very, very deepest parts of the lake, which they might not have been using all year. Maybe swimming through the top layers a lot of the time, but not going down to the bottom. And what happens is because no one's been catching there earlier in the year, if you're one of the first ones to try it because you're not scared, then it can really pay.
Yeah, he ended up catching a few fish on the bounce, which was it happened real quick. Where we had the first 24 hours was just like quiet. We moved, it was real quiet, and then the next morning, which is when we anticipated the bites to be, because that's when we were seeing a lot of the activity. Yeah, and it literally just in an hour he had 3 30-pounders.
Yeah, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and then that was it, quiet. But
yes,
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Which is definitely worth watching. If you fish a particularly deep lake, he'll give quite
good tips.
A bit of tactics and stuff. But you can learn lots of stuff just naturally just watching him anyway.
Yeah.
Just little things. And then you have been to Combley. Oh
yeah, I forgot about that.
So you went over to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, so there's 2 lakes there on the Isle of Wight, on the Combley fisheries, like under their banner, under their control. One of them is the main lake, is the one that we fished, and one of them is called the Lower Lake. Now they're both available for exclusive bookings. The Lower Lake was, I think, a slightly older stock in there. They've been in there a little bit longer, I'm led to believe, which I only found out after going. I think there's a couple of 50s in there, and lots of 40s. Not loads of fish. I think there's like 50 or so fish in that Lower Lake, and then the main lake that we fished is said to have 80 fish in it. The biggest one is a 60-pounder that Steve Renyard caught a little while back. I think there's at least another 50, maybe or 2. I think, I'm not exactly sure. A good, decent head of 40s, and the average size well over 30. But it's not easy. Those exclusive booking lakes, they see a lot of pressure, because obviously it's one group leaves, new group comes in, bait goes out. They've obviously been well fed throughout the year, quite well plump and that. And I felt like I was on the fish I felt like I should have caught more. That's basically how I came away. I was like on fish, fishing well, on clear spots, with tried and tested things, but I just didn't get the bites that I thought I was going to get. I did. Obviously, I caught one. I caught a 33-pound linear, really, really nice fish. But I had this stalking chance where there was a big fish eating my bait, and I felt like I should have caught. And funny enough, I actually went back there after making the film for CarpFix. I went back there. I was supposed to be making a film for Mainline. The cameraman phoned in and said he didn't fancy it because it was raining. I took me mate with me, this guy I know from the gym, and this guy Nat, he'd never caught a 30 before. So I put him in, I gave him choice, but like I recommended the middle, like there was this horseshoe-shaped weed bed with a nice clear spot. I said, I wanted him to go in there really, but he did pick it so that I could just run round and chase him. His first bite was a 45-pound common, which is good. He never caught a 30 before, so he was absolutely buzzing with that. And then he caught another one of 35. But I had another chance. I was stalking in the edge. I baited up, and I don't know if it was the big one, but it was a really big plain mirror, and that big one in there is plain. And I had it eating on the spot, and it was eating all over the rig. Didn't take it, and I thought I need a pop up on there for whatever reason. So I waited for it to swim off. I tied a pop up on another rod, quickly lifted out the wafter, dropped in the pop up. Put 2 handfuls of sweet corn round it, and I got away with it. And then I put the rod down onto the rest, set like the clutch and stuff. And for whatever reason, I thought I'd just put another little handful of sweet corn. And in that time, I'm not sure it was the big one because I didn't see, because it was on the half light. I'd done it on half light. I threw this handful of sweet corn like out, and the water just exploded. I was just like, and you just see this mud cloud just come up over the bait there.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't come back. So, but yeah, Comberley, I definitely want to go back there. My advice would be, if you're going to book it, I think 2 or 3 anglers would be best on the lower lake, and I think on the main lake it says it holds 6 to 8 or something. I think maybe it's maximum of 6, but I think when you go on these lakes, if you don't pack it out, you all have chances to move and feel sort of free. I think like 3 or 4 on that main lake would be lovely. I think it's £800 for, I think they do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night ticket, and they do a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the weekend's only 3 nights. The midweek's a 4-nighter. I think it's £800, and I think if you split that between 3 or 4 of you, you can have a nice session there. You know, you share a van or whatever.
Somewhere different to go as well, isn't it?
They're big in there, and they're getting bigger, and they're real nice fish. I like that. I like exclusive access lakes to go with your mates, because when you go to a day ticket lake and you're trying to drop in, you inevitably end up in naff swims if you all want to fish in a line, or you end up separated. Yeah. And I think for most people working normal jobs, they're booking time off or booking a weekend to go, and they want to fish with their mates. So I think these exclusive booking lakes are really good for that. Yeah. Really, really good.
Cool.
Should we answer some questions?
Yes, we have some questions on here. Yes, send over your questions, and we will do our best to get through as many as possible. We normally get through them, to be honest, in the time that we have. Excuse me. Lottie? I'm a young kid and want to go to the next level. What lake do you recommend me learning from? It's a good question. So if you're just getting into it, what do you do? Where do you go?
I think like fishing the day ticket lakes is a great place to, like the main complexes, like your Linears, your Norton Disneys, your Bluebells. And I think you should really progress round the lakes, as in start on the easy ones. Like, so if you were going to Norton, you would start on say like Holden's. Is it Holden? No, Hodgett's. Hodgett's is the little round one. You know, it's got 1,000 carp in it. It's small. You can practice short range, accurate baiting, catch and fish, and then you can progress on to say billies, where you've got to learn to cast a little bit further, doing the same thing, catching quite regularly. And once you've mastered the tactics of accurate baiting and spot location, then you can progress to fishing like Pettit's Lake or Holden's. Like Holden's is deep, we've got 400 carp in it, and Pettit's is, I think it's close to 200. I think it's 200 odd carp in Pettit's, but they're bigger, and obviously you'll be waiting longer between bites on these lakes. But yeah, my advice is to start on the easier ones that are short range, progress to the longer range ones that are still easy, and once you've mastered the longer range fishing on the easy ones, then you'll you're equipped to be fishing the slightly trickier, more challenging lakes on the complex. And once you've done that, once you've caught them out, I would say Bluebell is the next step up, like somewhere like Kingfisher, pressured, difficult lake, but then there's lots of big old carp in there and really, really special ones as well. So, yeah, that'd be my advice.
Yeah, I think as well with somewhere like Norton, the bailiffs are really, really helpful. Like they're always there. There's loads of, well, not loads, but there's plenty of them there that'll definitely help. And you've got people like Tom Stokes fish there a lot, and Rob Burgess fish there a lot, and they're like Rob is always welcoming in because he's effectively working and he wants everyone to catch fish. So if you go to somewhere like Norton, you've got also the added benefit, which is worth the ticket price on its own anyway, to just go to Rob and say, should I be using this?
Yeah.
Because they will give you the best advice.
Yeah.
And obviously you're on CarpFix, so you're going to learn from the best of the best.
I'm
anyway.
going to be up Norton this winter a little bit. I'm going to definitely I'm going to be up there. Don't know which lake I'm going to sort of play it by ear with the winter fishing. I think it's quite. You should just see what's going rather than say I'm going to grind it out on the most difficult lake for a big one. I'll just going to go up and see what's happening.
So that's the good thing about it.
Yeah, take it bit by bit.
Yeah, speak to Rob because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows what's what.
He knows what's
most of the time.
Yeah.
Right, we've got one from Jack. Hello, I'm fishing a sand pit with an average depth of 30 foot. Is it too early to commit to 3 adjustable zigs? Did you catch any more on this method other than the original big common at Bundy's?
I can't remember how many I caught. I think I caught 15 across the winter, and more than half of them were on zigs. And they progressively, as I caught the first one at the end of January on a zig, that original big one, and then by March that I was catching them 15 foot down in January. February I was catching them 12 foot down, and by March I was catching them 6 foot down. So the depth changed. But my personal feeling on deep lakes is definitely want to be fishing in the deep up until Christmas on the really deep ones. If it's 30 foot, I wouldn't be fishing zigs yet. And then I would play it by ear in January, like as if I felt at Bundy's I was catching in January, at the start of January, at 42 foot on the bottom, and then I had a session where I couldn't get a bite. They were jumping, and that was when I made the decision to change. So yeah, I would definitely stay deep fishing on the bottom until Christmas, and then when you can't convert, then that would be when I change.
Cool. I've just been trying to translate. One of our members has sent a whole message in French, and I can't quite get the gist of it yet. So leave it with me.
Okay. You talk a bit of French, don't you?
Well, I can read more than I can understand. Say. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Which is, I think, quite common.
Yeah. Well, I've done a little bit at school, but I think you lived out there for a while. Didn't you?
Yeah. I can get by.
You can hold your own.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends if they start swearing at me. I won't know.
Nerd.
Right. So, Jack Sexton has said, favourite meal on the bank. What do you like to eat?
If you ask Scott, I eat out of Tupperware 9 times out of 10.
Cold chicken and rice.
I go to the gym all the time. I make very little progress because I don't know what I'm doing, but I try my best. Like I'm an unknowledgeable gym goer who drinks too many beers, and it just gets in the way of it. So what I like to have on the bank when I'm feeling a little bit good, like when I'm feeling like I want to eat something nice, I like steak, potatoes and peas. Like I think that's really easy to do. You can cook the potatoes and the peas in one saucepan, tinned ones that you haven't had to do any flaff with, and the steak a few minutes either side in the pan. It's a lovely meal, and it ain't. I don't want to be getting all pots and pans and getting the two over the top. So convenient steak, potatoes and peas. When
we were out last week, I got a new pan that's got these 3 compartments in.
And average monkey, big
no,
one.
Well, it's an NGT knockoff,
right?
But it's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, but it's quite big. But it's got 3 compartments in it. I went to the local co-op who's got this company called Cook, and it's all frozen stuff.
Yeah.
But it's good frozen like food. It's all like nice and it tastes fresh.
Yeah.
But that's what it perceives to be. But you basically get three things. So I have like you have your main meal, a bit of rice, and I put the naan bread in the other one. But because it's got the three separate things, you don't have loads of pots and pans. You chuck it all in one, put it on the heat, warm it up for 20 minutes because you can put it in the microwave. All this stuff. Yeah. So I just put it on there for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever, and it was like that's good. But I like steak. Yeah. Stuff like that is.
I like curry as well. Like if you make batches of curry up at home, if you can be bothered, or like you can buy the ready-made. I can't think what they're called, but they do those good ones at Tesco's. They're like not the real cheapy ones, but like they do the one that's slightly better. That's meant for two. You want the one that's for two people, don't you?
They go so stingy on the chicken, don't they?
Don't they? You have to you're fighting through the sauce looking for it.
Two pieces, great. Yeah. But yeah, anyway. Beer Boobs and Techno is on. Let me make sure on that. Yeah. Evening, gents. I'm fishing a lake this winter, which does have a splattering of crucians, perch, and the odd big bream and tench. Should I continue my attack with 10mm cell and maybe introduce corn, or do I take the risk and add maggots to the hook baits and free offerings? Question for Scott. Congrats on the £50 from Graville. Has your fishing style changed since you've been working with CarpFix? Do you want to go first?
You answer your style.
Like fishing style. By style, I guess you mean my
technical.
Yeah. Not really. Obviously, you improve over time, but I have always done an element of fishing. But I think since 2014, so 11 years, I have spent every week with a really, really good angler, or every other week at the very least. And that is hours and hours and hours of seeing somebody fish, and you learn a lot.
And then watching it back in edit.
Yeah, but like with a fine tooth comb, you get an understanding of every situation, every type of lake. Like you go all over the place. So that clearly helped. Yeah. That definitely helps.
That's a cheat code, that is.
It is. But you have to soak that in. You could, you
could miss it.
If you not that way inclined, or you have little interest, you might not, pay too much interest into it. But that definitely helps doing that. But in terms of my style, not really. Grenville obviously is a place where at times you do need to cast quite far, but I've never been able to cast, and still can't cast very miles and miles. But I just always fished. So I've always had but there's a
you get out there all right, don't you?
Yeah,
30 reps.
Yeah, in the right conditions.
Yeah.
But again, it's watching the videos or watching people. You go, right, well, they've used this stuff. I'll use that stuff. I know I can cast, and just fine tune what you're doing using the right stuff, and you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
So not my style hasn't changed, but my knowledge of stuff over the last 11 years has it's been soaked in, and then it just since I've fished more over the last 3 or 4 years, that's when I've been able to use it. So don't know if that answers it. But
what was the other part of the question?
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah.
Fishing a lake this winter, which does have a splattering of crucians, perch, and the odd big bream and tench. Should I continue my attack with 10mm cell and maybe introduce corn, or do I take the risk and add maggots to the hook baits and free offerings?
I would try maggots straight away. Like maggots and corn are my two absolute favourite winter baits. If the roach aren't too much of a problem, then maggots can be brilliant. And obviously, I'm not the sort of bloke that likes to fish through nuisance fish, because I think that if you're fishing for any sort of carp that's got any wariness about it, if it's not starving hungry and living in a rammed pond full of fish, then if it's hearing fishing disturbance, then it should, if it's got anything about it, leave the area. So if you're making loads of disturbance by catching nuisance fish, then I don't like that. But if you say it's got the odd big bream and the odd tench and the odd crucian, and your maggots and sweet corns can stay out there without being if you're catching the odd one in a session, say per 24 hours, you're catching 1 or 2 nuisance fish. That's not the end of the world. But if you're catching 8 bream or 8 tench or a mixture of like nuisance, that's too many. That's like too much disturbance. So yeah, and some lakes got eels in as well. And if you fish maggots at night on lakes that got eels in, you can have a nightmare with that. So I would say that maggots and sweet corn will definitely catch you more carp in the colder months if the nuisance fish will leave you alone. So you'll have to see, you have to give it a whirl and see what you can get away with, and how many times you're willing to get up in the night to catch a bream. Because that's horrible in the winter, isn't it? Like, yeah,
the worst thing ever.
yeah. But sometimes just getting those nuisance fish on the spot can, not always, like it's not going to draw carp from the other end of the lake, but getting the fish feeding on your spot if there's carp in the area, that can help as well.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Adam Davies is going to Gigantica Road Lake in 2 weeks. Any advice? 2 weeks.
Well, there's a film on there's a film on Gigantica of Road Lake when we went there. Me and Ash went there last December, just before Christmas. So be a similar time to when you're going, but obviously the Road Lake wasn't open then. It used to be closed in the winter, and we just nipped over there. It was freezing cold, but the biggest thing you can do is take the advice of the bailiffs of where the fish have been coming from, because Road Lake is notoriously swimmy. And what I mean by that is, it's very rare for everyone to catch on Road Lake. Like the fish hold in the corners and round certain pegs at certain times. So I'd be very keen to hear what the bailiffs have said of what's been going on in recent weeks. And I just don't find I haven't noticed, I certainly haven't heard people say that the middle swims are the best ones. Like the swims that, when I say middle swims, I mean the ones that fish out into open water in the middle of the lake. I've never really heard of people having it off there generally, as a general rule. And quite often the swims with the turtles, the tea parties, the beach swim and the bund and the decoy, the ones that are near no fishing banks, tend to be the ones that I've heard of being best. But don't take that as gospel. I would really listen to what the bailiff said about what's been going on in recent weeks.
Cool. Someone's just asking about apps on the whether we can have it on Fire Stick and Amazon. Yeah, sorry, just the Amazon Fire Stick, which I don't actually know the answer to, but potentially. I've always thought
Amazon Fire Sticks. That's like where people have the hooky sticks, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got one.
Have you?
Yeah. No, I haven't. Sorry.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look. I'll do this one. There's a really long message, which I will do. I'll do it in a second.
Come back to it.
Yeah. We'll do the short ones first. Marco, evening lads. Had a massive success with mainline sell straight away on a lake where there is zero chance they've ever seen this bait. Why is this bait so successful?
Well, if everyone knew that, everyone would be making sell, wouldn't they? I really don't know what it is. I don't know what the attractor is in it, what the liquid is. I know it's a cell activator, but I don't know what it is. And some people used to say it was a coconutty sort of smell, but I don't think it's that. I really don't think it's a coconut additive. But it's obviously a great combination of ingredients that I've used it on and off for a lot since 2008. And it's always very instant. When carp have never seen it before, it works really well, and it works really well when it's been used over a long period of time. And one of my favourite things about cell is that it really does work in the cold weather. So if you're using a bait that you've been fishing all year long, then I don't get scared as it gets colder. In fact, I get more confident that I'm using the right bait, whereas the fish meal boilies tend to be really good in the hot times of year, and then or the warmer water times, and then they sort of do tend to lose their effectiveness as the water cools. I'm not saying they don't work at all, but I would say a lot of fish meal boilies lose their effectiveness as the water gets cold. Whereas cell it literally comes into its own. I couldn't tell you what's in it. I couldn't tell you anything about the ingredients. I just don't know. But yeah, it's good.
When I was out with Dan a few weeks ago in France, he was using cell, and then there was a couple of I think they were Dutch or German police officers that were fishing in like the Giet, which is attached to the owner's house. Anyway, they were fishing. The fish were out there in front of them, a little bit further probably than where they were fishing. Just couldn't get bite at all. And Dan got quite friendly with them, and he he gave them a some cell.
Get on the cell, lad.
On like the second to last night, I think it was. And then obviously they caught fish.
Did they straight away?
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting.
But yeah, it just shows you that. I mean, it was getting colder. It was actually real cold that week, towards the end. But yeah, it can turn your session around. Not all the time, but for them, they ended up catching a fish.
Good.
So
yeah, like I say, in the cold, like the absolute go-to. Oh, Essential Cell as well. Essential Cell, the yellow one, is really good as well.
Yeah.
But both of them are really, really good winter boilies. They
are. Right, we've got one here which is
It's a
very
long one.
long.
Come on.
What I'm going to do, he's got a question at the end. I'm going to save it because it's not really a question. It's more he's tweaked the combi multi-rig a little bit, but we don't really need to go into that. But he's got a question on the end. What are your thoughts on using a bait screw instead of a micro ring swivel and dental floss? So
it's fine. As long as the bait has got a hinge. If it's one of those bait screws with a ring on it, so you wouldn't want to just tie directly to a bait screw. You want a bait screw that's got a ring on it, so that the bait can move on the end of the bait screw.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely do that. I don't. I find the bait screws, they're just a bit ugly. Like, if you're using a big boilie, I wouldn't care. Size 4.
Yeah.
I think when you're using size 6, it's a bit of just looks a bit off.
Yeah.
Like a little bit big.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely use a bait
All right.
screw.
Cool. Reese Shepherd. Hi guys, how's it going? Good. You've been at the thingy today, haven't you?
You hear my voice is a bit like I feel.
Oh,
like
you've got show aids.
Yeah, well, I've got no. It's not just that. It's the talking because I don't.
I've been talking all day.
Like I always get sore throat when we do these. So I'm obviously talking for an hour or so.
And you've been talking.
And I've been talking all day, all weekend at the show as well, which
Yeah.
is not normal for me. I'm a yes/no sort of guy normally, like, I don't do a lot of talking. So it could be the beginning of the show because you shake quite a lot of hands, and it's the winter carp show.
Yeah.
People have got colds and whatnot. You're bound to bump into someone that's
Not 100%.
well, yeah. What's the word? Contagious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcus Starnes has said, "Hi Darrell, interested to know when fishing very silty lake beds with very few clear spots, do you still use your combi multi-rig? If so, do you modify your usual 5-inch stiff boom section?"
Now that's an interesting question because basically the reason you would say do you lengthen your boom, I can only assume that you're suggesting that because you're thinking that the lead is going to bury in the bottom and then the hook link is going to be losing its length, and you're suggesting lengthening it to counteract that. Now, if you think the lake bed is that soft that the lead is plugging into the bottom to the point where the hook link is going into the bottom as well, then I wouldn't fish a combi multi-rig like that because the boom would be propped out of the lake bed, like literally sticking out of the bottom, if that's what you think is happening. Generally, if you feel the lead down and it's not too shallow and you're not like bulleting it in, I think it's quite rare for more than you got the lead and then the swivel on top. The whole thing's probably 3 inches long, so your boom should stay the same if the silt isn't too soft and minging. But if you are suggesting that the lake bed is really soft, or it may be really shallow and the lead is really plugging in, then in that situation, the best thing that you can do is fish a helicopter rig. You can fish the combi multi-rig on a helicopter, and I think on the Peckers Techers video on the CarpFix app, I'm actually using it as a helicopter because when I first was using it, I was fishing at Wellington Country Park, and that's how I fished it. And you can just adjust the top bead position rather than lengthen the boom. You push the bead up on the lead core or your lead or whatever you're using to allow for that lead to penetrate the silt and then the hook link to lay on top. But one of my other favourite ways to fish when the lake is really silty is to either fish with a chod rig on top of the silt. That's really good. And another one is to use a light lead and a PVA stick, because the light lead and the PVA slows the lead down even more. And when you're using it with a braided hook link, that works really well. So, yeah, braided hook links with small leads and PVA sticks are brilliant when you've got a lot of silt.
Beautiful. So the French translation, it was a chap called de Moulin, I think he has his username as. He basically says, I know a mix that works well on all bodies of water. Here's the combination. 400 grams of wheat semolina, 200 grams of some bird food, 100 grams of corn flour, 100 grams of soy flour, 100 grams of fish meal, 50 grams of brewer's yeast, 50 grams of rice flour, 40 grams of garlic powder, sugar and salt. With this mix, I caught a 24.5 kilo mirror carp. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what the translation was.
You can definitely, there's information online of recipes like that where you can make boilies for a fraction of the price of what you, what's our fraction? You could probably buy the ingredients for 50% of the price of what you could buy them in the shops. But then you've got to go through the rolling. And in the old days, I used to roll my own bait. I've made my own base mixes, not quite as advanced as that, like a lot less ingredients. I used to buy like fish meal, semolina and soya flour, like a 3-part mix, and then just add flavourings. And I caught carp doing so. But unless you're going to keep your garage out, and yeah, it's very messy, it's very smelly. And yeah, I know a lot of guys abroad do it. Like Derek rolls his own bait. He gets the mix from mainline. He's got a boiling machine in his garage, and he cracks on with it. But yeah, I'm sure that would catch carp from anywhere. You know, I'm not saying it. I don't know if it's the best bait in the world, but I've seen recipes like that. That's like a very old school recipe like that. Yeah. Like those ingredients have been around for 30 odd years, and you can definitely do so.
I guess it's quite satisfying when you catch one.
I used to love making my own bait because I was all keen, but now I want to spend that time fishing. You know, rather than, as well, I've got wife and kids. If I started rolling bait in the house,
they'd probably start eating it.
Yeah, I know you use mainline, so it's all good.
The only thing I've really done in the past, this is when I was in France, like ages ago on a family holiday. It's not making a boilie, but I made my own paste with the house pellet. They had crushed it all down.
How did you crush it?
I can't remember. I think I put it in a plastic bag. I can't remember.
I can see you whacked it with a rolling pin.
I don't know. I can't remember. I crushed a load of pellet down. They had some chickens there, so he had some eggs. So I got some eggs off him, made a paste just out of the pellet and the eggs, and I wrapped it round like a big. I had some Rod Hutchinson. I think they were Rod Hutchinson halibut pellets, like pre-drilled, like 22 millers or something like that. And I found some fish right in the edge on a margin. Like you were saying earlier about the Isle of Wight, this fish was like clouding up. So I went and did all this, got the pellets, put the paste round the. I don't know why I decided to make a paste, but I did put the paste round the pellet just so it like leak off, and I just put it down, and then the rod was just up on the reeds, and it just.
There's a way.
I caught one. I got a picture of it somewhere, but that's as far as I've gone in terms of making anything. But I guess it's quite satisfying.
And a similar thing to what you're saying is like I used to buy these buckets of Rod Hutchinson base mix. He'd done a base mix called the liver mix, and you could buy, I think it was a 2 or 2.5 kilo bucket. It was like 20 quid for 2.5 kilos. But then I would buy trout pellets from my local farm store. I would mill them up, and I would cut that 50 because I knew the carp liked the pellets. But I wanted a boilie, so I'd mix it 50-50 with the and then roll it. So I'd basically bring the cost of the boilie down by making it part pellet.
Interesting. Let's have a look. Where's my questions gone? Here. Isaac is watching from Canada. Hope you're well. Carl Pettit. Well done, Scott. Steve Smith. Good evening, everyone. Dave Collins. Good evening.
Hi.
So Lottie from earlier has asked any cheap long casting gear. So if you were wanting to cast a bit further, how would you go about it without spending loads of money? Do you need to be buying loads of expensive gear?
Like say if you, a lot of people say you can't do this, right? But you trust me, you can. You can fish with spod rods if you want to. I was fishing at Burfield this year. I was using spod rods to fish. The Kaizen Green, the Corda ones, the Kaizen Green spod rod, 12 footer. I think they're about 110 pounds, something like that. That'll cast as far as anything. No matter how much money you were spending, you could cast that really, really far. And it's not stupidly heavy. It's not stupidly stiff. You could buy that. You could buy the 13 footers that I've used. If you didn't want to go down that route, you could use a 13 foot, £4 Kaizen Green. Again, 110, 120 pounds, something like that. So that's where I would go with it. Depends how stiff. Like if you're going miles, like we're talking 150, 160 yards, you're probably best using a spod rod to cast 150, 160 yards. If you're talking 120, 130, then I would use the Kaizen Greens in either 12 foot 6 £4 or 13 foot £4. And with regards to reels don't really make a difference on how far you cast, in my opinion. You know, you could buy a 50 quid big pit reel and it will cast just as far, but it tends not to last very long. A 50 quid reel will fall apart over a couple of years. And my advice would be to buy a reel. I think once you get to, I think the price point from 100 to 150, you get a lot for your money there. And anything that you spend above 150, I think you're not getting better performance, really. You're just getting something a bit nicer, a bit smoother, maybe lighter. And before I went to Shimano, I was using the Daiwa spod reels as my fishing reels because I liked how fast they wound in. So I would say, look at reels in the 100 to the 150 quid bracket, depending on your budget, and cheaper ones than that is, like they say, buy cheap, buy twice. But I think there's a lot of really, really good equipment in that price point, both rods and reels, like 100 to 150.
Beautiful. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Nathan Joss, I think, or Jose. Joes. Apologies. Evening, Darrell and Scott. I have a question about fishing chods at rains, especially in depths over 20 foot. The lake has very little weed, and I would only be fishing chods when there's no or little wind. Would a tight line suspend the bait off the deck and affect the presentation? Off to Gigantica main lake next week. Going to be a tough one, but can't wait.
That is something that's really bothered me over the years, thinking about if you're casting chods really far and you're fishing with a tight line, is the line off the bottom to the lead? You know, it's really hard to know, especially because you don't know what you're going over. But I would suggest if you keep the top bead relatively close to the lead, ideally 1 to 2 foot from the lead. So it's not too far behind. I would say it's probably on the bottom, especially if you're using like a heavy fluorocarbon leader, maybe with a little bit of putty on the. If you're using a fluorocarbon leader, you could use a little bit of putty behind to try and help it stay down. Potentially overweight your pop-up as well, rather than have it sort of super critically balanced. But I was doing the same at Burfield this spring. I was whacking out as far as I could, which was like 150, 160 yards, probably something like that. And I was fishing over lots of shallow water, then going over a shelf into deeper water. So my line is like hooked up on a shelf and going straight down into the bottom, and I'm fishing bowstring tight. And that was in my mind, is my rig suspended? But I caught fish doing it, so I could only assume that it was sitting okay. It was certainly sitting okay enough to catch.
Cool.
Yeah, and then good luck at Gigantica. Yeah, it'll be tough.
Yeah.
It'll be tough for sure, depending on the weather. If you get double figures, then it can really turn on. But it's everywhere in the winter is very peggy. Historically, they're generally like Coes and Alcatraz are historically the two swims in the winter. But last year when me and Stokesy went, nothing was caught out of Coes and Alcatraz, and the fish were in the corner by Big Sub and the Stink. So. Yeah, just again listen to the bailiffs because they're there living it, knowing exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Steve Smith, a question for you both. What are your thoughts on using 10-foot carp rods in modern carp fishing? Do you think they have a place for small to medium lakes, etc.?
I think, yeah, I don't think there's any negative when you're fishing a tiny little lake. If you haven't got a cast like very far, like more than 50, 60 yards, and there's no weed, so you don't need the extra height to pull them out the weed. If it's a small lake and you haven't got a cast far, then yeah, you can catch any size carp on a 10-foot rod. I caught a 50-pound tuna on a 10-foot rod. So yeah, it's not about how big the fish are. It's more about how far you got to cast it, or have you got to drag them out the weed? If you've got to drag them out the weed from the bank, then it might not be the one. But when I'm boat fishing, for example, at Orient, I use 9, 10-foot rods.
Yeah.
And I obviously get them out of the weed by going to them in the boat. So yeah, they've definitely got a place. I love short rods for boat fishing. I've never used them for anything but boat fishing though.
I like if you find yourself on smaller lakes, like some of the club lakes are, generally a little bit smaller. If they've got like overhanging trees, they're much easier to like cast, like get a good trajectory so you're going under the trees rather than a
Is
12.
it easier with a small rod to do that?
I think it is, because I find myself like if when I last fished a small lake, I found myself I had my 13 footers because I just like I think my other rods were loaded up with braid on the 10 footers. So I was like, I can't be bothered to change them all. I wish I had.
Yeah.
And basically, I was basically crouching down to get like shorter so I could get under the trees, because the line would go in differently. It would definitely help if the rod was shorter in some of those situations.
Yeah, and for casting little leads about, if you've got a 13-foot broomstick, which is meant for wanging 4.5 ounce leads miles, it's not going to do the same little flick that a little bendier 10-foot.
But like for the cost of them, I think if you go on different lakes, I think they're just worth having, like just so you've got them. Yeah. But if you don't go fishing much, don't bother. But I think if you go fishing, it's like I don't play golf, but golfers have different clubs and they spend a lot of money on them because they need them for different situations. So I think there's definitely a place for them, and they're definitely really popular, especially those extracting style rods. They're even more popular because they pack down to nothing. And if you've got some kids as well, they're useful for like little kids to use, aren't they? Like shorter rods. But yeah, I don't see any problem with them really.
No,
I don't think it's like a gimmick or like companies trying to sell extra rods. I think it's
they got a place.
Yeah,
they got a place.
Yeah.
Like when I'm boat fishing, you got a 12, 13-foot rod, and the clear spot, like your rods, you're dropping the bait nowhere near the boat. With a small rod, it's just nice to drop it down next to the side. And handful of bait round it.
Yeah, I guess they're generally a little bit stiffer, like than a lighter test curve, like 12-foot rod, because they're shorter. The ones that I've got are just 3-pound test curve, and they're still.
Have you got?
I've just got some Carp Spirit ones, so nothing. I mean, they're nice rods, nothing like crazy.
Yeah.
But I just got them for like when we're doing a bit of boat work or something. I actually used them at Thorny Weir because you can use bait boats there. I didn't use the bait boat, and you can use Braid there, so I had them just ready to go. And I was fishing. I filmed it on CarpFix, fishing probably, I don't know, like 80 yards out or something. Yeah. And that was the maximum range for, like, I was using Braid. It was, I wouldn't want to fish anymore. But they were fine for that, Yeah. Zigman. What is your preferred rhythm of baiting if you are baiting with spom, or on the other hand, if you are baiting with bait boat? Once a day, every 2 hours? ?
With a bait boat, it's really nice just every time you get a bite, just to put a few handfuls in the boat and send it back out, because you just constantly got enough and you're just ticking it along and you're not making any disturbance. But I think you've got two lines when it comes to spomming. You've got two lines of thought. Are these fish attracted by the spomming, or are they repelled by the spomming? Like, are these fish so hungry that they know that an angler or angling pressure is happening, but they're willing to eat from it? Or are you going to scare them out the swim and they might not come back? So, like, most of the time, when I'm big carp fishing, it's a 24-hour reset. Like, you do your bait up, you put out as much bait as you think you need to generate a bite or maybe a few bites when the fish come onto the bait. A lot of times, say when I fish at Gigantica, I put out 20, 30, 40 spoms, and I hope that when the fish come in, I can get like at least a couple of bites over that. But if you're fishing somewhere where the fish are starving, you just keep topping up on their heads and they just swim down and eat it. They like, you're keeping a cloud, a vapor trail in the swim. But I always think that if you're fishing anywhere that's remotely difficult, then they don't do that. They don't eat out the spawn. You know, most of the time they'll be repelled on the lower stock lakes by that.
Cool. He did ask another question as well. He said, in winter, do you size down terminal tackle booms, diameter, and hook size?
Yeah, basically that. For years and years and years in the carp fishing magazine, that would be something that came up every winter. It was called scaling down for winter, like scaling your kit down. And we do fish very, very crude these days, like 20-pound boom and 25-pound boom and size 4 hooks, blah, blah, blah. And the water is clearer on a lot of lakes, so maybe your tackle does stand out a bit. But in my opinion, no, I don't change anything. I never scale down. But I do think that there is room for it. If you're fishing somewhere that isn't snaggy and the water is crystal clear, then yeah, I think you probably might get the odd extra pickup, as in like fish will maybe have spooked off of your tackle because they've seen it because it's too crude. And if you were fishing a little bit thinner, you might have got some extra pickups, but it's not something that I ever do.
Cool. We've got one from Nat. Do you top your pop-ups with maggots or keep it just the pop-up in the winter months?
I have topped baits with maggots. I think when we went to what's the lake with the huts around it? I was speaking to the guy about it.
What, the one up north?
No, the one with the hot tubs and all that.
Oh yeah.
Mill Lodge.
I've had it there.
Yeah, it was right on the tip of my tongue. Mill Lodge. When I was using maggots on top. I know Tom Maker and that swear by it, like when you're fishing naturals, to have a big bunch of them and spooner, have them tied on the hook. I think it depends if on the nuisance fish as well. Like if you're baiting with maggots and boilies and all bits of different pieces, then and you're hoping that you've got nuisance fish and carp, then maybe just having a straight boilie on might leave it in place long enough for the nuisance fish to leave it alone. But I think if it's just carp or mainly carp, then I think having maggots on top can only be an edge. I think though when you're piercing them, the liquids that are coming out of them must really help the fish zone in on that, especially in the dark. Especially in the dark.
Sam Lemon, evening lads. Darrell, what are your plans for 2026? Any big European trips or targeting certain fish?
Yeah, Corda have been in touch recently about all sorts of different bits and pieces. There's talk of a return to Spain. Me and Stokesy went to Spain a few Marches back, and we basically fished a really big lake, and Stokesy lost one towards the end, maybe middle, 3/4 of the way through the trip. Epic lake, epic location, didn't get any fish, so the film never went out. So there's talk about us going back to Spain to have another go. There's chats about a campaign film that I can't discuss just yet. I've got my Burfield ticket, so I might continue to have a little go on there. Haven't really thought about it. I normally, over Christmas, sort of January is a bit of probably the worst month of the year for carp fishing. I usually make plans in January for what I'm going to do. So, yeah, that's as much as I can say for now.
Beautiful. Richard James, hi guys. Question on the combi. I can't seem to get the 3.5 centimetre slip D over a long shank. Do you make
that's
D
because you're using a longer shank hook? You're using a longer shank hook, and obviously you would need to adjust the
length.
Yeah, to allow for that. You know
how much. I guess it depends how long.
I would say a 4 cent. Like when I use a size 4 hook, I use a 4 centimetre, so I go an extra 5 mil. So I'm guessing you would probably start there. Try 4 centimetres, and obviously because the actual gap between the eye of the hook and the knot will be the same. because the extra length will be used on the shank of the hook on the D. So I would try 4 centimeters.
Cool. Jeremy Collins, Darrell, do you fish braid straight through in France? Had a couple of pull-out snags fishing in France a couple of weeks ago. Just wondered if you incorporated anything with stretch.
I do fish braid quite a lot when I'm fishing in France, especially when I'm fishing from the boat or fishing really far out. But the trick is you got to be aware that there is no stretch. And when something goes wrong with braid, if the line goes tight, you can rip the hook out of it. Like mono is like gives you a cushion, a safety net, for user error. So when you get a take using braid, you shouldn't be clamping down on it when you bend into it. You just like put your fingers on the spool with the clutch open as it is, like pick the rod up, let it take on the curve, put a little bit of pressure to the spool, gently tighten, and always have the clutch set I use the clutch and the back wind simultaneously. So I'm generally giving line off the back wind, but I have the clutch set just fractionally tighter than I would like it, so that if I get caught and I can't back wind fast enough, it's still there to give line. Because if it suddenly goes tight, you can, like, if you've watched on the CarpFix app, there's the videos of me fishing ways in for the those big ones that were in there. And the night I caught the 55 pounder with the 55 pound the Oxley's Common. Mm-hmm. The next night I had a bite and I was trying to put my welly on with one hand whilst holding the rod after a couple of celebratory beers, and the rod yanked tight and I lost it. But if I had a mono on, it would have all cushioned out. But because I had one hand on my boot, I was a couple of beers deep and I was using braid. I had exactly what you had. It went, and I was like, no, and it come off. And because it happens so fast, the braid. There's no, there's no
give.
No give. Yeah.
There's no give. Don't drink and fish.
If you do, use mono.
Yeah. Right, we've got, I think, two more. Yeah. Isaac. Pecky, what made you change from Daiwa to Shimano?
Obviously, they're both massive brands within the real game. And Corda used to, I'm sure Daiwa used to pay to be on the adverts on between Sky Sports and stuff, and that's where the association came from back in the day. And I've always had free Daiwa equipment since the early, probably 2010, like free Daiwa gear and whatnot. So there is an element of loyalty there. But I make my living as a carp fishing, carp fishing influencer, if you like, and. It was just a better deal for me. I love the Shimano products were always something that I've wanted to use, but obviously being associated with Daiwa, and when there was a chance to go on board with Shimano as an influencer, I just jumped at the chance.
Cool. Yeah. That's it.
That's the lot.
Time is up.
Yeah.
So next week we've got Rob at Norton. That's going to be out, which is good film. What was he on Pettit's? Billy's. I can't remember which one it was. Yeah, Billy's. So that's out next Friday, and then it might be the little Park Lake film.
Yeah.
Or it might be a CarpFix Live. It depends when you're going out fishing. So we'll work that out.
We're going the week after next, aren't we? So next week I'm out with Mainline, and then the week after.
Yeah, depends when it'll fall. So
yeah.
Anyway, there's a couple of decent films. We're going out doing some more as well, and we'll do another CarpFix Live just before Christmas. I reckon it'll either be around the 12th or the 19th. We'll work it out. But we will see you next month, which starts tomorrow.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying the content, and we'll see you next month.